high school athletic boosters, we gave money to. Tools for schools, we gave money to. HIX-TV, we paid to televise the high school football playoffs. Gary Walters, we gave money to. He's the Christmas parade horse. He brings the horse that everybody gets a ride. Christ Covered, we gave money to. There's another CCA Society donation. Hicks Community Center, Grace Methodist Church, Defiance Furniture Bank, Shelter Box, that's the tents that they box up and ship out. We gave them, we bought a box. Rotary Rose Parade Float, we donated $50 to. Read for Literacy, the Hicksville Girls Softball Association, Hicksville High School Yearbook, Hicksville High School Post-Prom, Hicksville Junior High Baseball, Hicksville Girls Softball, we bought a sign. Hicksville Baseball Association, we sponsored the team. Hicksville School Foundation Trivia Night, we paid for a table. Linus Slattery Memorial Golf, Boy Scouts of America, Andrew Crayer, we helped towards his Eagle Scout project. And the Tribune Printing Company, we wrote them a check for the Night of Lights banners. That's that, some kind of walk. Z-Dike was in charge. Exchange students, last year we spent $2,143. Basically, Kyle, we spent about $1,500 on. And then we also helped sponsor another student that we never met, but we helped the district out. The Rotary Club of Loudonville had an exchange student, and we gave them $500 to help pay for their student. Some of these I didn't do, but I wrote the check, but the board voted on these. So. Pancake Sausage Supper, we ended up giving our foundation here a check for $1,616.64. That was the proceeds that then go to scholarships. And other than that, that about covers it. I'm going to give this stuff to Jim Renzi. For those that don't know, Jim does our tax return at no charge to the club.
All right, I'm going to see if this will play now. And you may have to listen very quietly because the fans, I think, may...
who are so transforming the lives of people in this region. Very simple medications, medications, vaccines to bed nets. Wherever I go and do my work, the Rotarians have been there for me. It is a very humbling to discover just exactly what serves before yourself and those you see it practicing. And polio is finally eradicated, and you know you stand surely in the first chapter. I admire the Rotary Club's interventions so much. They're well thought out and enacted. And so I thought no better out of the field to send you my very best. And really offer thanks and gratitude for what you're up to. Bob, in a crowd.
And then if you could please stop that. So I'm sorry, the next time I try this, I'll bring some big speakers that we have at home. But basically that was, for those of you who couldn't hear, Bono was talking about everywhere he goes in the world, Rotary's always been there, always there before him. And so he's talking about Rotary's work with polio and the fact that when it's completely eradicated, Rotary should be at the top of the list for those who receive gratitude. Going around, I brought the pig. So the second Tuesday of every month is our Piggy for Polio. It's something that our district governor is doing this year. And so on the second Tuesday of every month, we're passing the pig. All proceeds go to the polio campaign. When we do this, if you place anything in there that's identifiable, like a check or whatever, it does go through to your fellowship and you get credit for it there. So while we pass that, we'll go on with the rest of the items on the agenda. Many of you may not know that the Chamber and the Rotary plan to do a fall event this year. It's changed a little bit, but it's called HIX-Toberfest, and it's October 14th. I do need a couple people or so to assist on the committee. Amy and I are working on it with the Chamber. Missy is in a dual role between the Chamber and Rotary, and so if there's anyone else that could please help us, please let either Amy or I know. We would really appreciate it. May 31st, 2018 is our 80th birthday, for those of you who did not know that. And so I'll be looking for ideas if we want to do something special leading up to our 80th birthday here. Something that some of you may or may not know is that I know that Larry has been our treasurer for 15 years, and Mike has been our secretary for I don't know how long, neither does he. But both of them would like to step down, and one of them plans to step down at the end of this Rotary year. So if any of you are interested in being, and somebody needs to be interested in being our treasurer, because Larry will not be here July 1st in that capacity, and if somebody would like to relieve Mike, he would certainly appreciate it as well. So be thinking about that. If you have questions about the duties, either of them can help you, but we do need somebody to step up in both roles. We also recently, just in the last couple days, have been asked if we will staff 2 days at the fair. If you have any interest at all in helping with us, we need to let them know right away. We'll get paid $750 a day to do it, so it would be a fundraiser for us. There are 6 gates that we'll need to staff, and we'll need to staff them throughout the day. We'll need to get back to her shortly, so if you can help in any capacity, please do. I can help on Friday, but Thursday our hospital picnic's out there, and I'll be with our staff. So if you can...
What dates are
The
they?
24th and 25th. That is all I have on my list. As you know, we have a special guest today, and that would be our Representative Latta, and we've asked him if he would like to speak to us a few minutes.
Well, thanks very much. And on the Treasury report, how much off were you? Not very much.
What?
On the Treasury report, you're only a couple $100 difference.
From the revenue.
I take that over 20 trillion.
Yeah, me too.
But thanks very much. And I didn't know. I thought I was just going to eat that. But I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all today. And a lot of you know that we're here in Hicksville today, and going around different establishments. And I tell you, the town's great. And I can remember somebody might remember my uncle Lester Latta when he was the superintendent of schools here. And so we got over to Hicksville quite a bit when my uncle was here. And the town looks great, it's growing, and I'm proud of it. So it's great to be able to represent it. And maybe if I could do this today, I heard I was only supposed to talk for a couple of minutes. Maybe if you all like to ask some questions, or give me, how about this, some suggestions or ideas. But just what's happening right now, of course, healthcare has been out there for months. What we had to do was pass something called reconciliation in a budget. Because again, in the Senate, the whole idea is, over there, that you have to have 60 votes to pass things out. So we passed a budget earlier in the year that had a reconciliation provision in it for health care that told the Energy and Commerce Committee, which I'm on, which has jurisdiction over health, the Ways and Means Committee on the tax side, that we had to come up with budgetary savings. Well, so we did that. We got it passed out of the House, knowing there'd be changes made over the Senate. And over the Senate, of course, we know that they haven't got it done yet. So we hope that when we get back in September, that the Senate will pass something that can get it back over to us, so we can go in what we call a conference committee to work on it. Because we've seen, especially here in Ohio, we've had 18 counties that were totally exposed. We've had no providers. And again, when you're talking about Obamacare, over 50% of people in the United States get their insurance through an employer. Then you have another large segment, of course, is through Medicare, Medicaid, VA, TRICARE, and about 7% is what we're talking about when you're talking about Obamacare out there. But that's the market that we're looking at. So it's important that we get this thing done because, again, you've got folks out there that are going to be, like in quite a few counties across the country, that are going to be totally exposed because there's no providers going in. And so we want to get this thing done. So it's, you know, and the other thing is we might hear sometimes is they talk about a Congressional Budget Office score. And, you know, I don't want to fault the Congressional Budget Office or the CBO, but they always look at things in a very narrow, small box that they look at. Give you an example. If they are looking at down the road at where the federal debt might be or the deficit in a given year, they look at things in a 10-year window that nothing ever changes. So let's just say that they're going to look at and say that how much interest we're going to pay on the debt over the next 10 years. Well, 2 years ago we paid $241 billion just to pay interest on the federal debt. When you look at where we could be in 2027, they say, well, it could be $768 billion. That's, but again, if there's no changes in interest, it could go to $1 trillion. So they're not really sure at where they're coming from, but they look at, as they look at this box. The other thing is that when they look at healthcare, they assume that to be 22 million people to be in, so they're off by half. So they're scoring when they do things again. It's so there's everybody kind of likes to run off with the CBO score and say, well, look at this, and say, yeah, you have to really look at what's happened after they've scored something. The other area that's really of huge importance out there, of course, is on tax reform. We haven't had tax reform in this country since 1986. That's supposed to be done under reconciliation too. And again, under reconciliation, you only have to have 51 votes to pass something out of the Senate. You don't have to have 60. So we want to pass another reconciliation package that will then say that they can pass something out of the Senate with 51 votes. We didn't realize it would be this tough to get 51 votes over in the Senate on anything, but it's going to be, again, this is an area, if you've really watched the stock market, you've seen what the stock market's gone up since November the 9th. Probably the biggest mistake about everybody in the room probably made was that not calling in or buying mutual funds or stock at about 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning the 9th, because, you know, the market's gone up over 3,000 points. So, but a lot of that's being predicated by the notion that we're going to get tax reform done, because again, the United States has the highest corporate tax rate in the world. And when you tack on state, local, and other things out there, you can be over 41, 42, 43% for corporate tax rate in the United States. I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee, so we have, of course, jurisdiction over energy, health, telecommunications. The committee that I serve on has been renamed. It used to be the Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade Subcommittee. It's now called Digital Commerce and Consumer Protection. But and we also have an Environment Subcommittee. But when you look at the numbers out there and what we want to do, that tax is going to be a huge player. Companies are really looking at where they want to go and get things done. But one of my hearings, a gentleman that has more patents in this one area, and he started businesses all over the world. I read his testimony the night before, and I asked him during the testimony, I said, you know, I didn't see where you'd started these companies. He said, Israel, 15%. So if you think companies are going to stay here just because they want to stay here, it's not going to happen. A lot of companies are looking, especially new startups, are looking at saying, you know what, we'll go where the cheapest rate is, and that's why we got to get this tax rate down. What we're proposing right now is about a 20%. You're going to see a lot of, you know, credits and deductions and things like that wouldn't be out there. You'd have the same thing on the personal side. You'd go down to just 3 brackets to make it easier. What the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee would like, Kevin Brady, he'd like 90% of Americans to do their tax reform or tax returns on a Form 9 law. That's it. So they want to get it down. So that's important. Something I've been working on, and I don't want to talk very long, pardon me, so if you have a question or two, that we just passed out of my committee on autonomous vehicles, aka self-driving vehicles. And self-driving vehicles, and no pun intended when I say it, is being driven by the auto side this is not being driven by government to get there, but companies out there are developing these vehicles, and what we just passed out of my subcommittee, went to full committee, and we just passed it, was to make sure that we have some preemption out there, because we can't have 50 states and the District of Columbia passing their own laws when it comes. Just think today, if everybody was out there regulating the vehicles, it'd be impossible. The other thing is we want to make on safety, cybersecurity, because if you think about self-driverless cars, we want to make sure we have cyber out there. And we also put in there how many vehicles do we put on the road over a 5-year period of time. I've ridden in 2. The first one was actually on like a little track. The next one was on 395 outside Washington. Now that was interesting because when I got in the car on the passenger side, and the gentleman that was, because this car still had a steering wheel, and so you could actually have control over the vehicle, that when we got across the bridge, he said, oh, and by the way, there's a brake pedal on your side, don't touch it. And so I had to put my foot underneath the seat to tell myself, don't touch that brake. And I told him, I said, this is exactly what I needed to have in my car when I was teaching our girls how to drive, to have a brake on my side. But the technology is advancing so fast that in committee I've asked everyone the same question. If you look back 5 years, do you think the technology would be where you are today? And they said, no, we're far past it. And the estimate is by 2050 that all vehicles will be autonomous at that time. By 2020, 2021, you're looking at autonomous vehicles being tested in larger areas, like more metropolitan areas. The other areas, the thing is, they're probably more south of the Mason-Dixon line. Why? Snow. Because they've got to learn how to drive in areas that don't have snow. And so I just saw one of the companies out in Arizona was actually testing had its vehicle out, assimilating all the sounds from sirens and everything else, so it could figure out what these noises were. So there's a lot of things that are going on that technology. The auto industry in this country is about $950 billion, and so it's huge. But again, we want to make sure these vehicles are safe. And when you look at folks out there, like my mom's she'll be 94 next month. She gave up driving when I turned 16 when I got my driver's license because she's always had a severe eye problem. My subcommittee vice chairman, they have a 26-year-old son that has a disability. He can't drive, but he can't get to work unless his mom takes him to work. So he could get a vehicle that could get him back and forth. So there's going to be a lot of different things happening out there on this, but that'll be one of the things, the first bills we'll probably take up when we get back and pass that out and get it over to the Senate. Let me ask you this question. Did I overrun my time?
No, please ask.
Does anybody have questions, suggestions, or ideas? I'm open. Yes, sir.
Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
Do you have much interest in them, or are they pretty busy around Washington? Are they pretty well respected?
Well, the Heritage question is about the Heritage Foundation. Heritage was formed quite a few years ago, and you know the background of it. One of the helpers to help found it was from Wood County, Clyde Sloan, and from Master Chemical. And in fact, Ed Fulner, who was the CEO of Heritage for decades, he's in back now just temporarily, used to work for my dad. So I know the history, and Heritage, there's 2 parts though of Heritage now. There's Heritage and there's Heritage Action. That's the one wing is political, but the other end is still the research. And so Heritage has been a very conservative think tank ever since its foundation. Yeah. Just if I could one other thing, just quickly. When we talked a little bit earlier, kind of give you an idea of casework changes. When I first was elected, and Kathy does a great job keeping track of it. Kathy's in the Defiance office, but she gives me a monthly report of all of our 14 counties of all the cases. So initially it was always Social Security, Medicare, and then veterans. Today our veterans cases are way at the top. And so we're doing a lot more veterans work. You might have seen we just recently passed legislation again out of the House. It's hard to believe that we have to pass federal legislation so the VA can fire people that aren't doing their job. Unbelievable. But we firmly believe we've got to help our veterans out there, and we want to make sure that they get the care that they need. Yes, sir.
Has Washington changed much in the last 10 years? Or you read different accounts that many don't live there anymore, they travel every weekend, like they're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the rest of the time they're
Well, the way the weeks are normally in DC, it's either Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. And, almost everybody I know, except if you're from Alaska or Hawaii, all go home every weekend to work. People expect you to be home working at the same, so you have your days in DC, and then usually as soon as I get off the plane, I'm in the car, and I'm going someplace. And so you're expected to be home working, and so everybody has to, you're just back and forth. And, it does, some people say, well, for camaraderie and things like that about people getting together. Our schedules now, because my schedule, I'm up before 5 o'clock every morning anyway, and I exercise early in the morning, and then I'm usually back in the office around 7:15. I can work till about 7:30. I get a cup of oatmeal downstairs in the cafeteria, bring it upstairs, eat it real quick. I can work till about 8:15, and then I leave then everything that's on my desk I can't do then pretty much until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Everybody pretty much goes back to their offices to work. So between your schedules you have in your office, your committee schedule, and floor schedule, it's a completely different thing today. Remember when they said computers are going to make your life easier? There's a lot more work. But that's just kind of the change you've seen. That there is a lot more work being generated, but that's good because I think that folks expect things to get turned around, and so like in our case, all of our district work, constituent work is done here. All the ledge work is done down in Washington, but everybody's working together to get this work out. And so at night I review every letter that goes out of Washington. I sign every letter that goes out of the district offices because I think it's important for me to see exactly what's out there and what again, as I said, Kathy gets to me the monthly reports, but I can see daily what's going on out there. So, but it's important to get that work in and out that way. Well, thank you very much. And again, hearing what you give your money to and all, I've been, don't throw any rocks, but I've been a Kiwanian for 34 years. I was president of our club back when I was practicing. I did our 501c3 we did a scholarship fund, and I served on that as a director. But I think it's important that folks in the community understand what you all do. Because just think that if you weren't out there raising the dollars to help folks around here in Hicksville and the surrounding area, who would do it? And all of a sudden people would be starting to say this. I remember we used to have this going on and that going on. Why don't we have it? Because if folks like you aren't stepping up to the plate to do it, it doesn't get done. And so I just want to thank you all for everything you do in Rotary, because again, it's a lot of work. When I was president of our club back in 1990, I was one that started the 2 pancake days a year. I wasn't Mr. Popular right off the bat, but again, generally that's how we raise our money. And so, but again, when I look at what you give your dollars to, thanks very much, and I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks.
All right, I was walking around and handing out items to some of you in the room, and Larry is going to read off the names and tell us what that was for.
Anybody that gave every Rotarian every year $100, and then also donated to Polio Plus $25. That comes to $125. They did this last year, so you got your 125 pin last year if you did it. And this year, this last year, then if you did it again, you got a 250 pin. The Rotarians that got the 250 pins are Susan Mack, Barry Haler, Cheryl Davis, Don Brown, Alan Hilbert, Doc Ramus, Greg Collins, Jim Renzi, Karen Smith, Kirk Collins, Larry Coburn, Larry Haver, Lawrence Culler, Leonard Guilford, Leonard Siebenauer, Mike Barth, Michelle Kitson, Otto Nicely, Pat King, Bob Luderman, Bob Poth, and Shanna Valena. And then there's some that didn't give the year before but gave this year, and they get a 125 pin, and those will be Eric Kroll, Amy Galbraith. I don't know, Amy, they got you on here, but they don't have the 250, so I assume you didn't. Yeah, okay. So you should get the 125 pin. Let's see. Paul Yoder and Steve Avers. Okay.
He's only been in the club 20 years.
So thank you. And as I was walking around, I may have overlooked some of you or one of you or something. So if I happen to overlook you, and I apologize, please stop up here and pick yours up.